this is a fast focus. And what that means, doesn't that seem odd? Don't you, when you focus, are you not slower than normal? Well, anyway, what I said I would talk to you about is to provide the attendees with a practical, experience driven framework for classifying data processing challenges and tools and establishing clear criteria for technology selection in an environment of tool proliferation. That's pretty good. I didn't even write that with AI. That's all me. That's all me. I did that. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to jump right into the slides. Let me start my timer to make sure I stay on time here, and we'll go through it. All right, here we go. We're going to start out with the data paradox. The data paradox. Everybody understands what a paradox is, right? It's like military intelligence, government efficiency, fast focus. You get the idea. Here's the problem that I've seen. I've been doing this for about 42 years, and I've been in data the entire time. Some part of data, DBA, development, something, but data, always. There's too much generalization right now. There's far too much generalization. You've got so many tools. I was reading an article. I was going to bring it up, but I'll just leave it for now. That talked about, is from Forrester, and they said that the average company, mid-sized company, employees use up to 112 software tools. That seems like a lot, doesn't it? I mean, I know the managers, it's just email, but other than the managers, for everyone else, it's a lot of tools. And they said they spend upwards of $5,000 per employee per year for licensing for all those tools. That's a lot. And you say, well, we don't have that many. Well, you're using PowerPoint and Word and Excel. And I know since you're experienced DBAs, you're probably using, like Access, Microsoft Access. So you're using a lot of tools, and there's all this spread. And you're also using, more so than tools by a lot, is processes. That's the thing that gets really fragmented. And why does that happen? Why do we think we have so many differing processes to do a job? Right. We had an old one, got to do it a different way. Why do we do it a different way? Because a new person came, right? The situation changed, but we kept the old stuff and bolted the new stuff on top of that. You ever seen that one? Um, a sales pitch, some salesperson comes in and goes, yeah, you should do it like this. And the guy's like, that sounds really good. It was a complete sentence. We should do that. And so that happens a lot. Teams pick a tool, they get a hammer, and then everything's a nail. And they do that. Then they move to another team. And so new manager comes in and goes, I did everything back in my day in Microsoft Project. So we're all using Microsoft Project, right? You ever seen that? Also, we have things like some teams learn how to do streaming for data. So that's obviously how you do data. Others do pipelines or queries or OLAP exports or whatever it happens to be. So when we see these things happen, when we get all these processes and we see these tools, there's a lot of friction, there's a lot of heat, there's not a lot of light. So the problem is this, though. It isn't the number of tools. That isn't the problem. It's not just that there's a lot of tools. It's that we're using the wrong tool for the problem. So that's our first thing we need to think about. And I'm going to give you a framework for how I think about this stuff. The solution is really simple. It's 3 pieces, and that's what we're going to use the rest of the 20 minutes to talk about. The first is you need to actually have a strategy. Everybody know the difference between tactics and strategy? So strategy leads to a goal, right? And a tactic supports. It's the actions that support the strategy that get you to a goal. For instance, we think we need to eat food today. We should eat dinner tonight. And I want wings. That's my goal. I need a strategy to get wings. I do not have a car here, right? So I need to do a few things. Number one, I need to find out where wings are. Are there good wings? Are there bad wings? So that's our first thing we need to do. Second thing we need to do in our strategy is figure out the transportation either to, or more importantly, from the wings. And then the tactics are this. I'll ask you and say, would you call up this restaurant, see if they're open tonight? That's a tactic. And then you call, and then you'll say to me, they'll bring you food now. This thing called DoorDash. I'm like, what? Yeah, they'll bring you food. So would you look up DoorDash and would you bring us the food? We got to have money to pay for it. Is everybody with me so far? You got the idea? You would be shocked. No, you wouldn't be shocked at how many big projects are started without clear goals or a strategy. Anybody ever been part of that? Don't raise your hand. Your boss might be here. I'm sure a couple of you have been part of projects that you knew when you started, like, what are we trying to do here? I'm not being silly. This is real life. This is real money. And if you talk to the people at the top of the company, it's like the people at the top of McDonald's. They think your hamburger looks like the one on the commercial. But when you go to McDonald's, that's not the hamburger you get, right? What happened in between? They had these expectations that were different than the reality. Does that make sense? All right. So you need to have a strategy. It's number one thing. Define what you're trying to do and how you're going to get there. That sounds so obvious, doesn't it? I cannot tell you how many times I've consulted with companies, and when I ask them, what are you trying to go? What are you trying to do? They can't give a clear answer. That's terrifying, but that's what they do. Second, this is your first step after you do that first part there. Classify the workloads. Classify the workloads. I'm going to tell you how to do that. And then you're just going to apply 3 filters. Once you do that, everything you need to do falls out of your processes and technologies. I call it process, platform, people. Those are the 3 things when I'm a manager and I go into a company I focus on. The process is to do something. The platforms we're going to use to do it with, and it can be paper and pencil for that matter, and the people that are going to do it. The kind of person, do we have that person? Are we going to rent them? Are we going to bring them in? Are we going to hire somebody? We're going to have ChatGPT act like a person. What is it? Does that make sense? All right, here we go. Let's go to that first part. We've got our strategy, and the first step is moving from data platforms to workload solutions. I know, it sounds marketing. Doesn't it sound like marketing a little bit? It sounds a little bit like marketing, but it's not. Most of the time, when I go to a technical session, the presenter gets up and begins to explain how to do something. That's great. That's great. But they haven't told me what they're doing. And more importantly, they haven't told me why I care about this how. The how gets really long and complicated. And then you just click here and you enter this formula. You type these things and you have this query and you just, and I'm thinking, wow, that's a lot. Why am I doing that again? They've never told me. So you start out with the why, and the why is we're trying to create a workload solution. I used to work at Microsoft for about 20 years, and I would endear myself greatly to the product teams when I would walk in and say, when they were talking about a feature that we were going to release, and I'd say, do you know people don't care about our features at all? Do you know what they care about? They care about their job, and they care about how they get home by 5 o'clock. That's what they care about. They're not worried about this cool new thing we have. They're worried about how does this work and help me in my problem. So why don't we talk about this? You have this problem. Here's what we built to fix it. You have this problem. You don't have wings in front of you right now. We have the Wingmaster 3000. It can get you wings whenever you want them. Right now I'm solving a problem rather than saying we have element technology and heat sensors and all. You don't care. But you do care that you get your wings in 15 minutes or less. Make sense? Does everybody make sense? It's a short mental shift, but it's really important. How do we classify these? I do them into pillars. My first pillar is OLTP, online transaction processing. If you ever use an acronym when you're teaching or speaking, spell it out the first time. Don't assume everybody knows what you mean, okay? Define that terms. Here's what an OLTP platform needs. Real time, right now, this second. Secondly, atomicity. What does atomicity mean? It means one thing is one thing. It's not connected to other stuff. High concurrency, low latency, right? Means lots of people can be working on this at the same time. Sorry, we've lost your access database there. I apologize. But the high concurrency, low latency gets you that. Next is single record focused lookups and updates. You look at this and you go, well, this is obvious. Do you know what I see 100% of every company I deal with do to this day since the 80s, since I've been doing this in the 70s? They're running reporting on production. You just don't do that. Yes, you do. People are doing it all the time. Big, important companies are doing this because I tell them, are you looking at single record inserts, updates, deletes, a CRUD matrix, create, read, update, delete? Blank stare. You're not running any reports out of there. You're not doing aggregates out of there other than in solution to insert the data or delete it. We may have some of that. Okay, now you've lost this. So classify your workloads first. The transaction throughput, and everybody knows what ACID is: atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. You know that term. If you don't know that term, write it down and go learn what that means. That is the bread and butter of what we do. Invented a long time ago to get us out of COBOL flat files in 1969. We have some user profile updates, e-commerce checkouts. You know how that works. All right, next workload that I'll classify is advanced analytics. Advanced analytics. And this is things like, we used to call this OLAP, but it's grown beyond just online analytical processing to a larger set. I don't just move people's reporting system off of their production system. I say, wait a minute, what if we use this data for lots of stuff? Like reporting, but also other things, like fast aggregation. So if I need to do sums and counts and any of the aggregate things, that should be done in a different system. Why is that? Well, main reason is you need to denormalize the table. If you don't know what denormalize is, look that up, because that's important to know as well. You want to denormalize the table, and then you want to pre-compute your domain aggregates, count, sums, and pre-compute those so it's nice and fast. Do that at night, do that in an off period, do it in a trickle. There's lots of ways to do that. Next, batch processing and streaming ingestion for eventual analysis. If you ask a boss, what data do you need to see on your report? I need to see the last second. Most of the time when I push, no, they don't. Yesterday is fine. 3 hours ago is fine. They do not need to know that they sold that pizza on that register in Peoria, Illinois 38 seconds ago. They really don't. And if they are, they're being tactical. They are not being strategic. Are you with me so far? This is harder than it looks. Take your workloads, not what you're doing today, your workloads, and classify them this way, and then see if they're in the right pillar. They probably won't be. And then finally, you can see here, by the way, I missed streaming. Streaming ingestion is like literally by the second, and it is time series, and it's usually insert only, not any changes. The batch processing, we do it at a certain time. And you can batch process throughout the day, but it's just not by the second. Everybody with me so far? Looks good? All right, good. Final pillar. Please. Okay, the statement was, can I be so bold as to add? And the answer is always yes. And he says he talks about columnar indexing over standard B tree and other style indexing. That's a speed relationship, and it's a very important point. If you're thinking columnar, you're already thinking, why? And the answer is because I'm reporting off of it, which means it needs its own system. Okay. By the way, this does not mean, I've seen this. We do have a reporting system. You do? You moved it off your production database? Yes. Where is it? On the production server, in another database, in that instance. And I'm like, okay, so that doesn't count? You put your bicycle in the trunk and you're driving your bicycle around? Still doesn't count? Okay. Final piece, AI. Sorry, we got to say it, but it's becoming a thing. Your boss has heard of it. They're going to do it. And to do that, you're going to need certain kinds of data patterns. One is training data. The next is retrieval augmented generation. And what this means is I'm going to suck out data from all over the place and turn it into a standard format so that when I query the large language model, it can query my local systems and be as smart as both. It can't just do that natively. You can't just throw a Word document at it and a PDF. You have to translate that stuff to make it work. We'll talk about that in the vector database session if you come tomorrow morning. Models. You will store your models. They'll actually be versioned because they get better and worse based on what you're doing. And here you're talking about models need to be looked up instantly, but other systems like your training data and so on are very large, and you might even use those raw, meaning you might cluster those things. You might not use AI, you might use machine learning to do those kinds of workloads. These are 3 individual patterns, and as you pointed out with the columnar indexes, they have different technology choices. Speaking of which, let's go talk about the technology choices. Here we go. Now that you've got those workloads, everybody with me so far? First thing you do is run it through a filter profile. The first filter profile you're going to run it through is value. Notice I did not say cost. Everything costs, even the free stuff. In fact, the free can be more expensive. Everything costs. I don't care about cost. If I pay $1 million for something, I don't care if it makes me $2 million. So I'm looking at the value, the delta between what it cost me and what it provided me. If you don't know how to do a return on investment, ROI calculation, even as a DBA, go learn to do that. It's a formula. You'll love it. Next is you have to care and feed it. I call this petting the puppy. It's great to get a new puppy. Your kids come up, Dad, I want a puppy. And they've got the puppy and it's got sad eyes and fur. And you take it home, and who cleans up the vomit and the poop? And who feeds the dog? And who pays for the dog food and takes it to the vet when it eats a rubber band and costs $3,000 for a boweloctomy or whatever they do to it, right? You do. So remember, there's ops. There's also support. There will be times, this is hard to hear, but you got to hear it. There will be times when things you don't know. There's going to be stuff you don't know. You have to call somebody. So you got to figure out support. How effective is it? How efficient is it? And how do I calculate? I know this is a term from the 90s, but total cost of ownership, that's all this stuff. Okay? Next filter, skill and maturity. Do you know how to use it? Does anyone know how to use it? You want a nice, vibrant community of people willing to answer questions for free. Okay? You want that. And your last filter is this one, gravity. Anybody ever own a grand piano? We had a grand piano at our church one time up in Seattle where I used to live. We needed to get rid of it. Do you know how hard it is to get rid of a grand piano? It's exceptionally hard to get rid of a grand piano. No one wants one. They're very heavy and they're very hard to move. Data is like that. Data is a grand piano. Put that in your head. Where do you live now? What are you doing now? How are you going to migrate the old system into this new one? And then while you're doing this, watch that governance, compliance, security. All right, last slide. Next, we're going to talk about our final thoughts here. Who knows what an OODA loop is? Raise your hand if you've ever heard of an OODA loop. All right, look that up, make a note. It's from the military. Hired this dude during Vietnam. He was like a really brainiac from the planet Tron, but he was horrible. He was an officer. He didn't know what to do. He'd never seen a gun before. He was useless. So they put him in a desk and they said, work on some problems for us with your brain. So he said, okay, what do you got? He said, well, we're losing a lot of people. The minute they come off the helicopter, they're getting killed. So take a look at that. So he had to devise something that a soldier could follow in 6 seconds or 6 months for a commander. And it's an OODA loop. Here we go. Number 1, observe. Just look. When you get out of the helicopter, don't start shooting. Look and see where you are because you're killing your own dude. Stop doing that. Okay? Observe. Don't do anything. Observe. When you're at work, stop. Just look around. What's happening? Number 2, orient. Orient. It means, where am I? Where's the threat? How do I figure out the positioning of where I'm at? Where are you now in your company? Where do you need to be? That's your orientation phase. D, decide. Come up with a plan. I will shoot in that direction. That appears to be where the bullets are coming from, not my fellow soldier. With me? And then finally, you act. Finally, you act. Most of the time, in many companies, it's ready, fire, aim. Don't do that. Use an OODA loop. If you don't know how to use it, read up on it. It's in Wikipedia. Stop looking at tools. Start looking at the problem. Run every option you have through the filters. What's the value? If there's a negative value, guess what? Don't do that. We're doing a thing. We should change it. Why? What's the value? We're actually getting good value of it. Then leave it alone. But we've been doing it that way since the 80s. I'm sure there's a better way. I'm not sure there is. Stop. I've told several companies recently, yeah, that looks great. And they're like, we brought you in for efficiency. I'm like, you're at 110% efficiency. What do you want me to do? I could take you down, but you're not going to get any better. And finally, Choose technology based on the problem, not the marketing. Demos are awesome because I can make them work every single time. And I do. I'm not going to get on stage and show you how it doesn't work. If you were in my keynote this morning, you saw the report from Microsoft Research on AI. And they were talking about this incredible value in AI. And the next bullet point they found in their research was, but it turns out when you try to use it in real life, it doesn't work. I thought that was amazing to see those two words together. Like, okay, interesting stuff. All right, I'm gonna leave some resources up here, but you don't need to take a picture or anything like this because these aren't live links. They are in the file that you need to download. If you want the direct slides, by the way, hit me up on LinkedIn. Say I came to your session, Live 360. Can you send me the raw slides? I don't want the PDF, and I'm happy to do that. Do we have any questions? We have like 1 minute left. Do we have any answers? Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. I hope this was useful.